Okay, so this work has to do with the seminar civic housing. And first, I would like to introduce Angel Martin Cojo. You know, he's a research assistant in our department, and Raül Robert is the head of the cooperative SostreCívic here in Barcelona. Together, 1 year ago, we got together to decide to think what we could do in terms of teaching inside a course students in the practice, or introducing students in the practice of collaborating with dwellers of this cooperative in order to refurbish, to train or to teach dwellers to interact with students in order to participate in a process of collaboration or co-design of this building that the cooperative SostreCívic had agreed with the City Hall of Barcelona to renew. So there was the real case, which was the building, facilitated by the cooperative. And there was our elective course, which we take always like an experimental area of researching on pedagogic innovation. So we have this elective course that we change the topic, and we have a space of freedom there to experiment with pedagogical innovation. And we decided to try for the first time how we train students to get these skills that enables them as professionals to interact with non-professionals, and what are the challenges that are there. So just to start with the topic of participation, the precedents that we wrote in the paper, just very briefly, it's a very old issue, as everybody knows. So already, and even before 1972, when this famous conference, design participation in Manchester, Cross wrote on the proceedings in that time, 40 years ago, user participation by involving in the design process those who will be affected by its outcome, the users, as they call it already, the users, the name users was the one that was used in the time also, may provide a means for eliminating many potential problems at their source. So 40 years later, participation is still an issue in architecture. Has not been fully accepted by the profession, that the professional has to interact. It's something that is still a matter of debate. And it's enough to see how the architectural programs are today to see that really in 40 years, this has not been assumed by the profession. We're still training professionals to design, to draw, to think as the unique designers, but we're not teaching these skills of collaboration, of co-design, of co-thinking with others to create meaningful dialogues in both directions. All of this requires also skills that sometimes are given to other professionals, to mediators or to sociologists or to other kind of professionals, but it's still to be done that the architectural education assumes as their own objective that an architect has to have also these skills to communicate in this kind of context of co-designing. So another relevant precedent is the work of Giancarlo Di Carlo, as probably you know, the Italian architect who was in this movement of the 70s, this critique to the modern movement. And he made an important distinction already in that time in a publication of 1971. He distinguished between working on how, without rigorous control of why. It was a critique to the modern movement architects that were more concerned with how to do things, how to do a smaller apartment, how to do the minimum circulation, how to achieve the minimum budget, but without never asking why we have to do so small apartments. So this question was backed by the modern movement. It is the critique of Giancarlo Di Carlo and other architects in that time to say, we have to wait until it's not the how, it's the why, the important thing. And the architects are not participating in the why. They are taking for granted the commissions, the power structures, the client, corporative or not, are given, and the architect starts to try to find a solution to a problem that he or she has not created. I think this has to do also with what Claire was explaining yesterday about the values of what is a house, what is a housing. From this point of view of the strict modernist, a house is a very well-functioning apartment with the minimum circulation, with the furniture that can be fit into the room. But this is not the real problem of the home. It's the problem of the house as interpreted by the professional schemes, by the professional architect, within a certain way of thinking. So this critique was already done by Giancarlo Di Carlo, who not only wrote this article, but also was putting into practice this collaboration in the buildings that he did in the time. In the same time, in these 40 years, while architects in architecture are still thinking if this is something that concerns us or not, the design disciplines in general, they have progressed very much towards the user. to the point that now it's normal to talk about co-designing as a term in areas of graphic design, in areas of product design, other areas that are not specifically architecture. And there's a critique also we wrote in the paper from the point of view of the design disciplines towards architecture, claiming that why architecture is not really part of this mainstream. What is the difficulty there? So within this context, and that was the main purpose of our pedagogical experiment, we see that it's still a challenge for architectural education to assume this program, to assume the need to educate architects in these skills in order to interact and to be designers not only of the product, but also designers of the design process in a collaboration context. And that means to interact and to translate between language of professionals with language of non-professionals, to be able to incorporate these inputs into the design process, to translate these inputs into form and space and the built object. All of this requires expertise, and it's not something that can be put aside. It's in the center of the activity. That was our assumption. So based on that, that's how we designed the course and the skills that the students should achieve by doing this practice. So you can read this conclusion in the paper. I will not take more time on this. And I would like just to summarize the pedagogic objectives, which learners in this process were two kinds of learners: the dwellers of the cooperative and also the students. And both of them had different needs and different objectives. But the learning space we created, it was for both kind of dwellers. So we expected that both kind of learners, the dwellers and the architecture students. So we expected both of them to learn something from this experience. So for dwellers, we expected from the beginning that we would be able to empower citizens to be able to participate in the definition of the living environment, of the domestic place, to make them aware also of the conditions of the existing place, because people are not aware, or they feel that they are not comfortable, or they are comfortable, but they don't know how to explain why. To facilitate also instruments to express and communicate their ideas to the students. And for architecture students, we expected them to learn from dwellers rather than from building regulations or building typologies, what they consider to be an appropriate dwelling in this context, in this particular situation. And we expected students also to design the communication process, the tools, the analysis, the methods in order to interact. We did not apply an existing methodology. Indeed, the purpose of the course was to design that methodology and to implement it. Okay, this is basically the introduction, and now I pass the word to Angel, who will explain now how we did it, the pedagogic structure that works.
Is it? Yeah, it's working. Well, really, I think, we're going to explain briefly the activities we actually did in this seminar. But to start with, I think it will be good to present the people we were involved. Of course, we were here in Salle. We have this seminar with 10 international students involved. It's a one semester seminar, so it was quite a quick exercise to do. And as Leandro was saying, we have the collaboration of SostreCívic as this group of people that were aiming to collaborate with us with I think that is really important. I mean, it's not the case that we had to look for the people and try to convince them to tell us about their idea of living, because we did that in another situation, and that's much more difficult. In this case, there is already a group of people organized that are looking for a new way of living, a new housing, a new flat. And so really the issue was already there, and this group of people already have their own activities in relation with housing, so that kind of connection was easier. But maybe Raül can tell us first how the organization is.
Okay, good morning. Say a few words about our cooperative. SostreCívic, it's okay, thanks. SostreCívic is a user and housing cooperative. It means that users, it's very important for our cooperative because users are members of the cooperative maybe some months or years before are users of the cooperative. I mean, first of all, the users we do a course for them. What is a cooperative? Why this kind of accessing housing model we are using? We tried to involve in the people of the also in the rights of the, but also in the obligations about in a cooperative. Our accessing housing model is a model between rent and property. The members are users. They have a right of use of the flat, the house, the country house for 75 years or 99 years. So for us, it's very important that these people feel and understand which kind of cooperative we are. They are not proper owners of the house; they are users. The owner of the house is the cooperative, the whole cooperative. So in this situation, it's possible to the people participate in the design, and not just in the design, also in the construction, just to reduce the cost for the people. In the cooperative, there are members of different incomes. There are members of medium incomes, high incomes, and also people who don't have houses. There are two members that they live before in the street. But these people have a vote with the same power than me. Now I'm the president. So, in this cooperative have three potentials or three objectives to social transformation through the housing. No, in a social way, no, with this mix, no, of incomes and different typology of people, in the participation in the process, in the whole process, not just design and construction, also in the political and economical decisions, because they are members of a cooperative. And also in the economical way, about economical decisions, and also in the ecological way, because when the people are members of the cooperative, and they are the first interested in to save about in the exploitation period, no? I mean in the energy consumption, etc. No? So, well, just this short introduction and. Okay. Also about the project, this project is a small project, but it's very interesting because it's in the center of Barcelona. You can walk if you want to do sightseeing in Barcelona. This is just in the Born Quartier. And this building, it was empty for 9 years ago. It's first of all was a private building, but after the municipality bought this building, but with the crisis and with other preference, they don't invest about refurbishment this kind of building. They prefer new constructions because it's more effective in a way of full people in a same building. No? So we negotiated with them to have a 75-year right of use, a real right of this building, that with this right of use of about 75 years, we can invest to refurbishment this building. So this is an example of public and private relation, thanks, public and private relation, because the public institution, the municipality, is also is almost the owner. We have the right of use, and we can develop with this right of use affordable housing, because we pay a small canon for this right of use. No? Okay, thanks.
We'll try to speed up here. So this was the situation at the beginning of the seminar. We have this building and this group of people ready to collaborate, and so, but we were not really experts in participation processes, but we had a plan, which was to make this kind of interactions, this iterative process that is described there. So really, we took the building as a background. We didn't really wanted the students to work on a proposal for the building directly. We wanted the students to work with a group of people that were aiming to change their way of living. And so what we had in mind was to organize different sessions with this group of citizens to try to confront let's say the ideas of the architects in relation with housing, with the ideas of the people, this group of people in concrete. And so by creating this confrontation, what we wanted to build up was to share knowledge or share language that really try to delete this gap in between the academic knowledge or the academic learning and really what people think. You know? So that's what this scheme is about. And really, like the end of this process, we didn't really want the students to make a project, as I said, but we thought that would be more subtle to give back to this group of people, like some kind of design guide, like some kind of recommendations from the architectural point of view to the inputs that we receive from there on those different sessions. So if we look at what happened in this seminar, that would be the sequence. So first we thought about the pertinence of the citizen participation and architecture. We, as Leandro was saying, we really designed with the students the methods and tools that we would use in relation with the purpose we had in this case. And one first workshop with 2 activities, and then we thought about the inputs we got. We came back to the university. We look at the results of this first activity and the issues that were there. What are the dwellers, the users' idea about those topics, and what were our idea about those same topics, and then we redesigned a second process, 2 new activities, and at the end we created this design brief that was not really a proposal. That was some ideas, some inputs that the dwellers could use in a later design stage. No? Yeah. So now we will just show some of the examples of the students around that process that I just described. All of this is on the workspace in Ecodomos. Those were some of the panels that. So at the beginning, we of course we look for precedents. We studied with the student precedents in participation in tools and methods. Omaira gave us a lecture from Puerto Rico about this issue. And then we started the design of the of the participatory action. At the beginning, we really had to stop the students to make them to be too formal. We as architects, we immediately want to create walls and make some kind of activities that is just that reflects the explicit demands instead of the latent needs, no, as we call. And so at the end, we go maybe to the previous one. The design process, we looking back at what we did with the students, what the students proposed, it makes sense and it has some coherence. And along the process, there were some activities that were more when we use traditional participatory techniques as questionnaires or interviews to make them think about their past experiences. As Leandro was saying, this was something that was thought for the dwellers to learn and for us too, but also for the dwellers. So the first step was to make them think about their past experiences, to build up on that. Then the second step were more with generative techniques. We were playing with images, illustration, with collage, so they can project their idea of the future home. And a third step with two activities were more, well, we based on well, we were thinking more in functional programmatic ideas already, no? So more participatory design technique. So those were the activities. Finally, as I said, in the middle, in the next one, in the middle of this process, in between these two workshops we did, we came back to the university. We thought about what we had. Really, that was a very difficult part. Try to interpret what the people wanted to express through the images. That not easy. It's very subjective, no? At the end. But what we were able to do was to identify the topics, the important things for them, and really to confront their idea of those topics, say identity or comfort or even flexibility, which is a very architectonic term. How they describe those concepts and what we thought they will have in mind. Not really, it's completely different. So that's something that we did in the middle, and then we came back to SostreCívic and we showed these reflections to them. We build up this knowledge with them, and then we create a second activity, a second workshop that were more trying to be focused on already in programmatic and functional things, but always being separated from really designing walls or spaces directly with them. And so at the end of this process, the thing was, okay, what we will give them back to them? How can we give some kind of shape to all these inputs? And so we thought in this template that there will be one template for one concept with these two directions. One, the input directly, the quotes of the inhabited input, and from the other side, the architectonic proposals or answers to those inputs, not just as a suggestion that they could use or not in later design processes. So those are the samples of the students. As I said, this was only an exercise to make them think and to think with them in the way. No? So
okay, thank you. I think since we are really running out of time, I think I will go directly to the final conclusions for making it a little shorter. Okay. So our final conclusions, what we learned from this experience, which was like a tried for all of us because we were not experts in participatory methods. We just followed common sense intuition, and we learned something, all of us, from that for the next step. So we learned that every participatory process is unique. Indeed, maybe that's a kind of design thinking mentality, but we realized that if we had to do it again, we probably had to think again on how to do it with different situations, with different people. So there's not really a methodology that we could just say from here, from this experience, we would apply the same one to the next case. Probably it would not work. The experience, yes, we get the experience, but not the methodology itself, like saying we have to do this process in order to gain the knowledge from the dwellers. So I think that the other interesting thing, the general conclusion, is that the learning space we created, and that's probably the most interesting thing from the pedagogic point of view, it went beyond the limits of academia, and that's important, I think. Not only physically, because we were doing the activities in the headquarters of the SostreCívic Association, but also because there was interaction between students and dwellers. There was a real case. So all of this gives a sense of reality to the teaching that is, I think, very important, and also makes that there's really knowledge construction outside the university. Because I think in the interaction with the workshops, I think we were producing knowledge that was positive for citizens and for students. So I think in that regard, this learning space goes beyond the boundaries of the university. If you are interested on the experience, finally, if you have not seen it, but it's here, the video, and you can find it yourself in the website. And it's just all the experience summarized in the video that you can find here. So thank you for your attention. You have, I don't know if you have any question, otherwise I would go to the next, please.
Two very interesting. I have lots of questions, but two important ones. The first, why didn't you make design proposals? I didn't understand that. And the second is the civic organization. What did you think was the biggest problem with the architect students, and how could it be solved? How was the relationship? What did the people in the building like the cooperation? And what was the biggest problem? With the user's relationship to the architect.
Okay, well, we didn't. Well, really, that was not the situation. The group of people that we were working with, we didn't really know if they were going to be the ones living there. So really, we were not at that specific moment that they really needed a design for them. So there would be a next design process that really would be with these only 5 families, because we were working with 30 people. They were all maybe be potential people to live there, but they didn't know. So really we didn't wanted to go that far with the design. But also we thought that it would be that would be another kind of process. No? This was more thought about, well, a first contact with their own ideas of housing, and that or the way they wanted to live ideally, and we only make them like suggestions or make them confront those ideal images with several specific solutions to make them match to the users, directly make them think, is this really what I wanted in relation with my idea of comfort or my idea of contact with nature or greenery? Do I really want a green roof as an answer to that? So we really only wanted to give them, okay, from the architectural point of view, we have this kind of answer for you. Now it will be your turn to choose again between those, or think in another kind of project. I think another kind of process, more specifically oriented to get to with the final solution. But I think this kind of pre-process, just to think about the ideas of the ideal way of living, we wanted to stop there.
It depends of the in the where is the process, no? If it's in the design or pre-design or in the construction or management process, there are different conflicts. It depends of the part of the process, no? For example, in another project that it's going faster than that. For example, in another project, we have a basic project with a public architect from municipally. After that, there are architects that they are from the quartier, from some organizations, and after we have our architects like a promoter, like in the promoters, and after the users, no? Usually the conflicts they are between the architects to try to and it's normal to try to project the ideas above the users, no? And try to do this more or less horizontal design in this process. This is the more conflict process in the design, no? Not in the pre-design. Not when you are more close to the details, no? To the details. And after, for example, in some when the users are participating in the construction process, there are also other kind of conflicts, but not just between, not original, but by the architect ego, normal ego. Not in this part in the construction process, the problems are between the users. Between the users, when there are some conflicts between to do the things, and in this moment, the architect is very or it's not necessarily an architect, but usually is an architect. It's very useful because they have another position, no? Because I have a position of more a pacification role, no? Because usually the architect is not painting, no? It's other users that painting, no? And when it's normal, no? When the different actors they are the protagonists, no? The projection, the ego, and the needs, so they are the conflicts.
Okay, thank you. I think Claire had one question.
Yes, I would like to address this question also to Ekim, because I think in the participatory process, the question of the user is kind of, it needs to be demystified as well. When you address individuals playing the game or being part of this participatory process, you address the individual. To what extent the individual is representative of the family? And I think there is a difficult point here. That means if you talk in terms of needs, aspirations, desires, etc., to what extent the individual who is going to participate talks for his household, you know? So I think it would be very useful to learn more about the internal dissensus inside the household and the family, because you take for granted that the individual there is a consensus regarding the needs or the desires into the family, which is not true, because we know, for instance, I think there is a lot to learn from, you know, in the bureaucratic language, it's called overcrowding, for instance. In the reality felt by one household, it can be everyday single little arrangement with the situation, how to deal with one bathroom with 6 people, etc. So I think there is a real issue about what the individual you're dealing with in the participatory process is representing. Do you understand my question?
Just a quick thing in relation with this specific action. I was saying at the beginning that we were very lucky to to be involved with SostreCívic because they already are an organization that are aiming to look for a new house, and the way that they are internally organized is well, people they are organized already in, like, say, living units. Let's say, like, for instance, when we were doing the participatory actions, one of the things we realized that that was very useful probably for them was to meet each other, to know each other, because sometimes there were three young people that decided to live together, and I think for them, for instance, that was that moment in this workshop. They were the first time that they started to discuss different things about how they will live, and they have to make decisions together. But the three of them were already there because, as I said, in SostreCívic, they are already organized, and they are presenting themselves as, most of the time, as living units already. And if they were a couple or a family, the three members or the two members were there making decisions together. So in this case, that was very easy, because otherwise, yeah, as you said, we will not really be honest with the results, no? Because yeah.